Yo guys, it's blistering hot, and yeah, standing out here already I'm getting cooked. The equipment is getting cooked. I don't even know if everything is recording properly, but hey, it's so hot out here. Guys, welcome to the channel. It's your boy, and I appreciate that you're here with me today. We have the Mahindra XUV300, the newer version of the XUV300. Last time we did this, we did in a diesel 1.5 liter. This is a 1.2 liter petrol motor in here, and we think it might be one of the most impressive motors as well. But you know what? I don't want to give away too much because it's hard. I'll end up saying the wrong things. But otherwise, guys, this is the AX7 L, which when you see this badge, just know that it's a top spec. And a top spec means you're going to pay more. As much as this is starting like a budget SUV, just below 260,000 for the MX variants, you will find that the AX variants are actually taking the price quite higher. It's not necessarily the worst thing because this car is packed with features as well. But you know what, without further ado, let's just get in. We'll talk about it more on the road because I'm dying out here. Guys, let's go. So, the Mahindra XUV300. This is the new version of the XUV300, and they resolve some of the things that we complained about, especially when it comes to the interior. If you watched our 2022, I think late December there, I think we did the XUV300 review, you would have heard that I spoke about the interior, and I feel that they came through to the party this time around in this one, especially in this top spec one. But hey, you know what? We'll talk about all this stuff, the interior, exterior, when we are on the way. Look, this one is the top spec AX7 L. And the lineup consists of MX2. You will find it in manual, 6-speed or automatic. This is the same one that is in here, this automatic gearbox. And you'll get the MX3, which has the manual and the automatic as well. AX5, same thing, manual, automatic. AX5L, it's only automatic. Then you get AX7L, which is only automatic as well, which is the one that we are in right now, the most expensive of the bunch, which is just above 400,000 rands. I'll put the price on the screen for you. This thing starts at around 256,000 rands, which is a killer point to start, because if I'm thinking about cars at that price range, I mean, cars of this size, they started around 290. I'm thinking about the Fronx. I think when I'm thinking about Nissan Magnite, is one that can probably challenge this on price, but can it challenge it when it comes to performance? That's another thing that I keep thinking about, because this is one car that will make you question whether to buy a smaller hatchback like your Suzuki Swift, which starts around 220,000, I think. You add 35k, then you get like a raised vehicle with like 200 millimeters of ground clearance, and you probably can pack much more in here than in a Suzuki Swift, for example. So I think competitively they've done a great job. Just that the more or the higher you go in the variants and specs, then you pay more, then you start competing with bigger cars in other segments, like in the Chinese, for example. If you start throwing in your Haval Jolions, you start throwing in the Tiggo 7, the 4 Pro, then you start having a little bit of a challenge in terms of some of the stuff. But as a package, sure, let me start. This thing is so hot. Yeah, as a package, I think Mahindra knew what they were doing here, honestly. But we can talk about that more on the way, because it is so hot, guys. It is so hot. You'll see when you start the car, normally it will tell you that this is the direction of the tires. I like that because you can be able to see where the tires are actually facing. I'm not sure if you can see properly on the screen. You can be able to see where the tires are actually facing so that you can get out with ease. And one thing probably that I don't like is it always takes you back to the lane keep assist, not only warning plus assist as well. So you have to get into the settings, start fighting with it, because it is so intrusive when you're driving. And that's something probably that for me, man, because when I drove the XUV300, I didn't find it to be so intrusive compared to this one. So I find myself having to turn this stuff off, because this thing has a lot of beeps. If I put it on gear right now, it will start beeping and telling me just how far I am in front, even when I want to reverse and so on. Just that this one doesn't have like an obstacle in front, but normally it will show you even with the centimeters on the screen to say how far are you from this. I saw this in the Volvo EX30. I think it's a nice touch as well, because you can easily just see what's happening around you. But the camera systems themselves, man, this thing has thin camera systems, man. Look at it in front. I'm telling you, this thing is, you can capture the screen, of course. Then this is reverse, of course. This one, because it's the AX7 L, which is the top spec, it has all that you could ever want in the XUV300 range, meaning it has 360-degree camera system that works so well, much better than some of the more expensive cars that I've seen as well. And you can clearly just get into spaces, because this vehicle is not that long. It's around, I think, what, just below 4 meters. So it's a sub 4 meter SUV, 3.995 meters, I think. So that's what you get in here. But hey, you know what, maybe let's hit the road. And on the road, of course, there are driving modes here. Once, let me put it in park and remove the camera system. Once you put it on driving mode, you get zip, zap, and zoom. I think that is economy, normal, and then sport. What I identify is that this steering wheel is a little bit tight when you're moving it across. So once you put it on zoom here, it's probably going to be a little bit tighter on the steering wheel. And I've seen that there are steering wheel modes which I can adjust as well, but I can't find them, guys. I don't know. I'm trying to find them. I can't, because I want to put it on zoom but have it, the steering wheel, a little bit lighter so that it doesn't get too tight for me. Anyway, guys, this has a host of features and you'll see them in the screen, which is something that I don't really like about it, because once you get into the settings and you're trying to get to driver assistance, like now you get into the screen, you're trying to turn off lane keep assist, there's a long way to actually do this thing. And I feel like, yeah, it's taking a lot. Now I'm putting it off. You can put warning or warning plus assist, so I'm putting it off because it's a little bit disturbing when I'm driving. That's the only reason. And let's see, navigation, I can put it there, but there's no need for that because I didn't connect Android Auto. But hey, maybe I should connect Android Auto for you back so that you can see how it looks. I hope my phone is not going to disappoint me, because I've been trying to connect Android Auto for some time now. At least now it's working. And yeah, so you don't need a cable to actually do this, because this thing has a USB type A here and a type C one. The type C one here is a supercharger one, 65 watts. In fact, I think it's the first time I'm encountering this one in a car, especially at this price point. It charges actually super fast, but you can also use the wireless charging pad, which I don't really like because this thing is just so hot. But it looks like it's ventilated here. I'm not even sure if it is or it's just the design of this thing. I think it's just a design, but otherwise, let's hit the road. So on the road, one thing that probably I don't like when you're driving slow with this car is this 6-speed auto, the way that it behaves in conjunction with the stop-start system. Because when you are getting to the stop, even when you have the stop-start off, like now I have it off, it jacks a bit, and I don't know why it's doing that. It's like it's assuming that you're gonna stop and then it's gonna go off. Then when it's at night, I said this in the XUV700 review as well. Here's the XUV300 there. This is the newer version of it though. So yeah, I forgot to tell you, you can see the blind spot monitoring with the 360-degree camera. It does this, so it shows you like on the side on the screen here. You don't need to see it on the mirrors like with other vehicles and so on in terms of how they do it. But there's a car coming. Yeah, there's traffic. Can I just go in so that I can be able to talk to everyone? So let's drive modes. We're gonna put it to zoom because that is the one. So that's how it goes. Another XUV300. Why am I seeing so many now? Hey. So I'm going uphill a bit, right? You can see that this engine is, it's like I'm asking a little bit of a lot from it, but you'd be shocked because hey, wait, did I finish the point on blind spot monitoring? Yeah, I did. I showed it to you when I was standing there. So that's just how it is. And I was still talking about the jerkiness of it when you're driving slow. It's like it's assuming that you're gonna get into the stop start system, and it jacks at around, I think, below 20 kilometers per hour. So that's something that you just need to be aware of. And then the stop start system at night, it's even crazy because when it turns off the car and then it turns back on, it turns off the lights. You know, when like that thing that there's a switch that just came on and the lights have to go off a bit to show that it's coming out. It's just shocking for me because I'm like, hypo, why is it doing like that? But you get used to it, I guess, when you own the car. I said this in the XUV700 as well. But hey, besides the stop start system, I think the transmission as well, when you are moving like this, I think between gear shifting from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, probably you feel the jacks a bit, and once it pulls beyond that, I feel like now it settles down quite well. As I was saying back there, that you can see that it's like I'm asking a lot from the engine, right? It feels like that down low. As much as Mahindra managed to actually capture the performance of the engine very well, in that the torque figure, the 200 Newton meters that you get in here, you get them at around 1500 RPM. It's ready at that point to give you any power you want, and that's quite impressive. And you see it on the road. Yes, when you are asking for it, you're putting your foot down, especially initially down low, it will actually say, you know what, I need to give you as much as I can, and it screams a bit. But once it settles down, a different beast altogether. Man, I don't know about this. I said this in the Mahindra XUV300 when I reviewed it in the diesel, guys, because I was like, there's no way, I like the way they managed to capture this thing and the way it performs. It's crazy. Look, this thing does it so well that you'd be shocked just how well it catches up to cars in front of you, how well it manages to keep up with other cars as well. You see that Mahindra in front of us right now. Let me put my foot down, ask for power, and voila, I am moving. I'm there. Listen to how the engine is responding as well. That's probably one of the most impressive things about it as well, because guys, I've been in cars that are expensive, and I know that, especially when the engine is not as big as this. I mean, this is a 1.2 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. You're expecting it to be screaming, especially if you were to find one without turbo. You know, I've said this before in the Suzuki's, that 1.5, I've indicated that you're asking a lot from it in most instances, especially when you want to do overtakes and so on. But in here, a different story altogether. I don't even feel scared to actually start the overtake now. If I was to see that there's an opening, I'm going in, my man. I'm going in. This Mahindra is just disturbing me to see what's happening. But hey, look, this engine for me is the party piece in here, because once you get on the road like this, the way it quiets down, the way it makes this car feel so comfortable, it's probably one of the things that I think, for me, because Mahindra for some reason managed to put this engine in all their variants from MX2 all the way to AX7 L. They've done the best that they can do, and having experienced the manual as well, I know just how good they can be when it comes to their manual variants as well. So I'm quite impressed with the performance overall. And one thing for sure is that you don't feel like you are in No, but it's a 400,000 car, so I can't say you don't feel like that. But thinking about the budget variance, I don't know how the X5 feels, but it's not even 400,000. I'm going now. That's how beautiful it manages to do it. It does it so beautifully, and once it settles down, different story altogether. You don't feel scared of anything. Go in, hit the overtake, and voila, you are in. Look, it's not like you're gonna need to do crazy amount of performance with this car. I mean, this at the end of the day is your typical cruiser for a small family, probably with just one kid, and then you get that small SUV. Performance wise, man, I've driven some 1.5s that are not as settled as this. The drawback probably is just the transmission and how it responds, the pairing as well, because sometimes you can feel when it changes, it moves you a bit, it jacks a little bit. And I think this transmission is the newer version of Mahindra's 6-speed autos, and I think it's the family that is in the XUV700. But in the XUV700, I felt that it's a little bit better in terms of how it responds. I said I'm going to put this on Android Auto so that you can be able to sway it. But look, besides that, on the way like this, of course, you want to experience the comfort in the car overall. And it's a little bit windy today. I can tell you right now that it's actually doing much, much better than one could even imagine. And that's the thing that keeps shocking me with this car. I'm expecting it to be a little bit too noisy and stuff, but that's not the case. Again, probably it owes to the 17-inch rims that are here, because this one is wearing 17-inch. I didn't check the aspect ratio. I'll put it on the screen, but it's a bigger tire. It's not a low-profile tire from what I checked. So from that perspective, you can feel the comfort. The road noise is quite minimal. Wind noise as well. I have the aircon on. Let me turn it off. I still don't feel like it's making a lot of noise even from the wind, despite this angle here, which is one of the things that bothers me from the design perspective. But still, it manages to capture the comfort in a way that you feel like, no man, seriously, like I'm in a car that Mahindra says is a budget vehicle, especially if I'm looking at your X5, because that is way below 400,000 rands. It's around, I think, 340 somewhere there. So I'm thinking, they've done a great job, man. Like, you can't even complain. I'm doing 120. This thing is at 2000 RPM. It's not a lot of cars that will keep you there. I can promise you, you can go way higher than this. This thing will still be around 3000 RPM at way higher speed. I can't even tell you which speed because we are doing legal things here. But I'm just trying to show you just how much they managed to capture performance in this car, which contributes a lot to the comfort levels, because despite this having a torsion beam, and in this case Mahindra calls it like a semi-independent rear suspension, you can feel the way it behaves on the road as well, especially when the road is as perfect as this one, that it gives you enough comfort. I'm actually comfortable in this car in many ways. I've been in this car with my wife as well, and she's been saying that, you know what, I'm so comfortable in this car, I'm so comfortable in this car. Yes, it's something that shocks you because sometimes you're not even expecting it. There are certain things that I said about the XUV300, especially in that final touch of tightening the screws, that I felt like it's like they didn't do enough. And in here, I find that actually from the way I feel it, they've done a great job in actually answering to those things that I've even indicated. Not a lot of things are moving around in here. And one thing probably that is also encouraging is the amount of soft touch materials that they put in this vehicle. And yeah, they managed to capture it so well, because all the way from these doors, this part on top of the dash, oh, this car is turning, I need to come in, oh yes, I'm going, pulling it, put your foot down, leg, and then the 5000 RPM, you're changing. It doesn't have a good pickup speed. Even with Mahindra, the way they are saying it on paper, they're saying, look, from 0 to 60, I think it can do it in less than 5 seconds. 60 as in like 60 kilometers per hour. They're not measuring to 100, because that's where you will obviously experience the down low of having a 2 kilowatts engine. But look, I was still talking about the interior in terms of how they managed to capture the whole thing. Contributing to the comfort levels, because you have a lot of soft touch. In areas that you have to touch all the time, you have soft touch. And then, let me put it on cruise control. so that I can behave properly on the road. So you can feel it when it brakes, you know. You can feel it. And this one, I don't feel like it has lane centering like the XUV700. It keeps jumping from side to side a bit. And yeah, here it's supposed to be turning, and yeah, it's gonna give up pretty soon. Okay, I wasn't even talking about cruise control, I was talking about the interior. But look, when it comes to the interior overall, the way that they managed to capture soft touch materials is actually encouraging. The steering wheel, it is leather wrapped. You can see it in front of me right now. On the side here, man, touch everything. This elbow is also getting soft touch on this door being here. The armrest is quite cool as well. I'm actually impressed with how comfortable they made it feel. The leather seats as well doesn't look like Napa leather or anything like that. I think it's synthetic, but at the same time it's a little bit comfortable in how it is. But comfort goes with what you're seeing at the end of the day, right? And this is something that I said in the XUV300, that look, the interior for me, it looked old. You know, there was a mix of silver on this dash. On this panel, I think it was a little bit white. And yeah, I didn't like the interior of the XUV300. But now they managed to come back and said, look, come back and tell us if we didn't do a better job with this one. And look, I think they've done a fantastic job. They managed to put the piano black, which talks a lot to appeal. It gives you comfort to the eye in how you are perceiving and seeing the car. So from that perspective, well done, Mahindra, you've done a great job. The only downside is that piano black is a mess when it comes to touching. You know, there's fingerprints anywhere, and because then this screen as well, the way it is, you also get fingerprints on the screen. So when you're looking at the car at the end of the day, you're like, maybe you just need to drive with the microfiber cloth, and then it will be a little bit better to manage the fingerprints. And whenever you get dust, you know how this piano black catches dust and everything else. So from that perspective, just be ready. Just have a microfiber cloth in the car so that you can just wipe around you, so that it doesn't look like, you know, you are untidy in every possible way. But from visual appeal point of view, pretty much impressed with this car and how it's just appealing on the interior. Jumping outside, I have some reservations, I should say, on how it looks. People love it. Look, this people turn around and check which car is this, and that's something probably that is saying Mahindra knew what they were doing. There's C-shaped lights in front. I mean, it's I would probably, what are you doing when are you seeing that we are stopping here? So the C-shaped light in front, I would say that replacing those ones from the XUV300, it's a new thing, I know, but I think I love the XUV300 in front so much that when I'm looking at the 3XO, I'm like, yeah, I do have some discomfort in how it looks. The lights as well, the way they look, even when they're on, I do have some reservations. I think for most people though, it does actually look quite cool. It does look cute, and from that perspective, people would be like, you know what, I'm okay with it. On the side though, the proportions of this car, for me, they're not that attractive, because look, just my problem is it doesn't have a bump, and at least if it had a little bit of a bump, I would say, yeah, you know, this thing I can see it looks much better. But this one, because there's the 17 inches on it, I think they're actually doing a good job in turning it better than it looks. And even the lower models, they come with 16-inch. The one with the alloy wheels, I think they're better than this one that comes with like wheel caps and so on. That is definitely, the lower specs are not gonna be great looking. That is just guaranteed. But overall, at the back, when I'm looking at it straight, quite impressed with what they've done. I mean, the bar, the LED bar is the new thing. You know that the LED bar is the new thing. So from that perspective, I think it does actually look cool. But because of the design, I think this is what Mahindra was trying to do. When they got into the sub 4 meter SUV craze, they were like, you know what, we're going to cut it at 3.995 meters. And when they did that, they were intentional about it, because they were like, nope, we are not. Am I turning here? I am turning here. Yes. Why did I think about that late? Oh, yes. yeah, picking up is a little bit of a struggle. But let me turn off the aircon and do it again. 60 to 100, putting my foot down. I'm gonna be too close to this expander. Is it expander? Yeah. But yeah, once you're on the road, it's different than when you're picking up. Just be aware of that. But look, when they were designing this car, of course, there was a craze on actually keeping it below 4 meters, and I think that's why they need a strapper. But I like that the boot space is quite deep. It has around, I think, 364 liters, which is quite big compared to other cars. I mean, I've been in a Jolion HEV which has like 255 and that boot space is not enough. I'll say this again, I was shocked by that boot space, but in here I think it's quite respectable for this car. It looks small, but it's actually quite respectable. When you come inside this car, the actual wheelbase, it's almost at a Jolion level, believe it or not. 2.6 meters. Jolion is around 2.7 meters, and you know Jolion has space at the back, it has space in front as well. That's exactly what you'll experience with this car as well, even for taller people, because this car is quite tall. I think it's above 1.8 meters, I think, tall, which is quite impressive as well, because yeah, you know, for a small car like this, that's why I think the proportions for me, they're a little bit to the eye, because it's tall but it's not long. So that's the thing that you'll experience with this car. But the headroom, it's quite respectable as well. Even people who are taller than me, I'm 1.7, I think someone can sit at the back even if they are like 1.8, 1.9, and they will have enough headroom, enough leg room as well. I think that is quite impressive. I think police, you are hitting a barrier line. I'm not impressed with you now. If it was me in front of you doing that, I don't know what would have happened. But look, when you get to the AX7 L, you're definitely getting what Mahindra calls a sky roof. Even with the sky roof, which is basically a panoramic sunroof, you get a full pan sunroof, which doesn't eat into the space because of the design elements of the car as well. And yeah, it is quite a cool looking sunroof, I have to say, because the lower specs, I think from AX5 you will get the normal sunroof, that small one, which is quite all right. And that gives me an idea of when it comes to this whole segment, not segment man, all the specs, and you look at the variants that are on offer, which one might be the best one in this case? Because you have to think about that. I mean, the MX2, the MX3, and AX5 and AX7, and I'm thinking probably for me, AX5 might be the one to actually go for, because as much as it's around, it's more than 300k, which is like almost the norm in this case. We know that cars are around that, especially small SUVs. It offers you so much. Probably you're just gonna miss on some of the stuff that is in here, and like advanced driving tech and so on, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping aids and all those things. But there is a lot that you're gonna get out of that car. Probably that's the best one to go for. But at the same time, once you cross the 400,000 mark, you're starting to have questions around competition as well, because there's a lot of Chinese vehicles. There's a lot of other vehicles second-hand that are coming from the Japanese, the Koreans as well, and that are going to be much bigger, and they have much bigger engines. Some of them don't even perform as better as this though. Let's get that out of the way. But I think overall they offer much more car than what this vehicle will be offering you. That's where I think maybe the AX7L itself, this top spec one, might just be suffering a bit when it comes to that. But when I look at it as a vehicle, if you like the design, if you like Mahindra, you can still go for it because it offers so much. I mean, getting into this, you find safety features that are beyond what you would be expecting. I mean, the 360-degree camera system I've already told you about. The screens are crisp. It can even show you navigate on this screen, as you can see right now. I mean, you get into the settings, you will see the driver assist settings. There's quite a number of things that you can do. I mean, you get blind spot monitoring, tire pressure monitoring, tire feel assist. I don't even know what is that. There is a lot of beeps and beeps that are happening when you're driving to show that it's actually quite safe. You get into driving assistance. Let me get in now. Driver assistance. You get adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, smart pilot assist, high beam assist as well. At night it can take the high beam down and low and so on. Traffic sign recognition, I've turned it off because it beeps a lot. So from that perspective, I've turned it off. The only thing that, like I said to you, that's the lane keeping assist in terms of how you need to turn it off. It's just intrusive. Even now, it keeps trying to correct me, so I just keep it off. But because I turned off the car, when you start it back again, it's going to be on, and then you have to turn it off again. You'll get used to it, but it's a little bit of an admin. And one thing probably that's gonna be a challenge as well compared to the competition, except a lot of the Chinese, of course, is the fuel consumption, guys. I think they put this at around 6.5 liters for 100 kilometers, but in here right now I'm averaging 10.7. As a matter of fact, it's because I've been driving quite alright for the last, I think, 200 kilometers or so. But before that, I was averaging around 12.9. And I was like, yeah, that's a lot. But it's because I was doing a lot of short distance, pushing it here and there, trying to experience it and so on. So I'll forgive it for that. I think then if you do a lot of long distance, it might go down. But 10 liters is still a lot and far away from that 6. That's something that Mahindra, you need to sort out. I love the performance. I love it. But I can't discredit that. Of course, fuel consumption is a big issue, especially in this kind of a segment. But one thing that I need to tell you about before I even close, of course, it's definitely the sound system. They included the Harman Kardon 7-speaker sound system in here. I couldn't find the outputs. I tried to check what is the power output of the sound system. I couldn't find them anywhere. But the way it sounds when you are not driving, it's different to when you are driving. Right now, when I'm driving like this, I feel like the subwoofer is like dead. It's like out. There's a subwoofer at the back. That's the 7th speaker. It's like I'm not feeling a lot of the bass coming from it, and it differs song to song. It differs. But when you're stopped, that's where then you can get something. Just that the balance, I think it's a budget Harman Kardon. So yeah, the balance as well for me it's a little bit off, honestly, because it has 4 speakers in here. There's tweeters and then there's mid ones, then there's mids at the back as well, I think, and then there's a sub that just in the boot as well. But yeah, the sub, I feel like it dies down a lot. You're not getting much from it as well. But when you stopped, I feel like it's at least getting out much better. It's more pronounced. You can chill with it. I think that's the thing about it. But overall, as a package, look, Mahindra knew what they were doing. Mahindra knew what they were doing, and that's my view, because this thing can chase a lot of cars, especially once you're already on the move on the road like this. Man, it performs, it settles down well, they know what they're doing, and because of the specs and how this car feels overall, I can say that 400,000 plus, it's actually justified. And when I'm looking at the cars that are just below in the variants as well, I'm thinking, you know what, you can get this performance at a very low price at around 256, and you get a complete SUV that has better performance. It might not feel like this because it's lower spec, probably doesn't have leather seats and all this nice looking interior and so on in terms of everything else that they put in here, but you get a lot more car for what they're asking from you. I think Mahindra has done a brilliant job, because this car in so many ways it justifies why Mahindra is asking what they're asking from you. That's how I feel about it, because I'm influenced by performance a lot, and some of you already know about this one. So yeah, if you pick it up, you're looking at a 3-year 55,000 kilometer service plan, which is 15,000 kilometer intervals, or you get a 5-year 150,000 kilometer warranty. Quite respectable as well. And yeah, I think overall Everything else we will discuss in the comments if I missed anything. Guys, I appreciate that you've been here with me today. And with that said, I am out.